Hello and welcome to Beautiful Literature with me, Teacher Martha. This is chapter 9 of the Fathers of Nations. I am so glad that you could join me today, and I hope that you've been able to look at the other chapters from chapter 1 to chapter 8. If you haven't, kindly look it up into other uploaded videos. They will help you to understand where we are in chapter 9. And so if you're also new and you haven't subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and do. It means the world to me. I will really appreciate that, even as you share with your friends. And so we'll go straight to chapter 9 and just maybe a recap of chapter 8, where we were looking at Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, who is one of the other main characters in this text. And we learned the kind of a person he was before he even joined AGDA, that he was an arrogant, careless, reckless driver. He got into an accident and he escaped unharmed. And finally, out of that miracle, he decided to be a pastor and serve God. And out of his sermons that he gave, very bold, very controversial, he ended up getting arrested and being banned from preaching. And out of that, of course, he was frustrated, he was unhappy. And out of that is when they met with Mr Longway, who actually enlisted him for Path Alpha. And so let's go to chapter 9. And in chapter 9, therefore, we come across one other main character in this text. That this is the one character we have not interacted with, and that is Engineer Seif Tahir. He's one of the main characters, and he's from Libya, that is in North Africa. And we are told, if you look at, that is on page 117, and we are told that he graduated from Abdelaziz Academy, that is in Tripoli. And after he graduated, he went on to study further studies in University of Paris, or Paris, I don't know how you pronounce that. And so the people around him were wondering, why would you go all the way to do a course that has to do with the study of weapons development? We're in Africa. Why is that even relevant? Is that even marketable for our country or even for our continent? Why would you even want to do something like that? An engineer was very clear to them and told them, just give it some time. You'll actually realize that this is a very, very important course. It's a very important skill. It's something that is so critical for us to do. And we are told that actually he went, and later he came back. And when he came back, he actually found something to do with his skills and with his whatever he had learned. And we are told actually that time when he was returning, he came back and found the president was celebrating his 20th year in power. Can you imagine? Anyway, when we do the other chapters, you realize that actually their presidents have been there for a longer time. But I thought 20 years and you're still a president is long enough, until I came across others who are there for a longer time. But their president had been there for 20 years. And of course, the people who didn't like him, they were wondering, they were hoping that in this celebration of his birthday, his celebration for 20 years, he will actually step down. And Engineer Tahir was wondering, why would he step down? This man is the best that our country has ever had. And if you look at page 117, which is very important, it is important for us to see how engineer looked at the president at that moment. What kind of a person was he? How did he view him? And I would want you to take you through that, because we'll need to compare by the end of the chapter. Where are we? Is he looking at the president in the same way? Does he think he's as good and as powerful and as reasonable as he is? And why did that change of event happen? And so in the third paragraph, we are told, look at what the leader has already done. He told the opponents, has he not closed down all foreign military bases in Libya? That is number one thing he has done. He has closed down all foreign military bases in Libya. Number two, he has nationalized all foreign businesses in the country. So you realize he's consolidating the country. And so all the businesses, foreign businesses, have been nationalized. And so we've also been able to recapture the prestige that the country, that is Libya, has enjoyed for a long time. And so there's some healing, there's some recovery, there's some restoration of the country. And then he says, a recent discovery of the petroleum reserves has shown the world that Libya did not just have sand after all, it had oil as well. And so this president has also helped the country to rediscover, to discover that they have petroleum and so on. And finally, what is so important for Engineer Tahir. He says nuclear bombs are the ultimate weapons, not because they defeat offense, they defeat offense, but because they also deter. And actually now the most thing that makes him very excited himself is that the president is strong enough. In fact, he says that the man has guts of steel. That means he's a man with an iron fist, and he's very bold, he's courageous, he has guts to do so much, because finally what has he done? He has established a place where they can make nuclear weapons and so on. And so for him, this is the climax of a powerful person, and he's very happy with the president. And actually he says, we are told that actually he came up with, it's called the Feast of Allah. And this organization, or this department sort of, it is the one that was charged with the making of the nuclear weapons, and Engineer Tahir was at the heart of it. He joined the Feast of Allah right after his return from overseas, and you can see he's very excited. It's a dream come true. Now he can actually tell the opponents and the people who are making fun of him, asking him, where are you going to study those things that are not important? And now he can tell them, actually, look at me now, I have something to do for this nation. And he goes on, and we are told how he was very happy, and the funding was, there was a lot of funding for this organization, for this department. And in a very happy coincidence, the leader of Libya adored the Feast of Allah. He gave it all the money it asked for, and he says, how true, Allah is great. Libya was becoming a nuclear power. It was becoming great again. And unfortunately, this excitement was not to last for too long, because something tragic happened, and we are told that is on page 118. Then boom, 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 Al-Qaeda struck on American soil. The leader of Libya knew America would soon retaliate, and not necessarily within the bounds of reason. He scrambled to his base to shield Libya from America's revenge. He even dismantled the Feast of Allah itself. Engineer Tahir would have learned to live with anything, but not the dismantling of the Feast of Allah. The dismantling of the Feast of Allah was too much. It was such an offense that he would not be able to forgive him. And so therefore, we realize that Engineer Tahir has been doing so well. He's happy, he's contented, his career is doing so well, until when there was that attack on American soil. And most of the presidents are careful not to find themselves in the wrong books of America. Remember, when you're talking about the poles of influence on chapter 8, we talked about chapter 7, we talked about where America is as far as technology is concerned. And so the president of Libya didn't want to get into bad books with America. And so what did he do? He decided that he does not want any evidence that he actually they can make weapons. And so he does not get suspected that he could be part of those who attacked America. And so for him to protect himself that way, he demolished, he abolished, he removed any sign of weapons. And that means that the Feast of Allah had to be dismantled. This man, Engineer Tahir, could not deal with that. It was so much, it was the worst of things that would happen in his life. He lived for Feast of Allah, he lived for this, and now that it's over, he didn't know where to pick on. And now we are also told a flashback of how the dismantling of Allah coincided with a very tragic accident. They are calling it the accident, and this accident is also very interesting. It's one of the incidents in this chapter that I find very interesting. This Engineer Tahir, he's interested in a girl, and this girl is called Rama Mahmoud, a very good girl, a very nice girl, and very beautiful, and he has interest in her. Now, what happens is that Engineer Tahir, with his pride and his arrogance, he actually feels that this female colleague, this girl, because she's way lower from him as far as career is concerned, he's way up there. She's a junior by a million miles. In fact, she's a junior, but she was his junior by a million miles. Now you can imagine how far she was in the food chain. And so he felt like, because I am senior high up there, this girl has no choice but to respect what I have to tell her. She has to respond to me positively. If I ask her out, she has no reason to refuse. After all, I am her senior. And so he went went, that is on page 119. And so he goes ahead and actually decides to ask her out and to ask her for a date. And the girl does not respond. The girl does not say yes or no or anything. And but by the end of the day, by the time he was finishing with his conversation, actually, if you read on, you'll see how the conversation went. So unfortunately, on this particular Wednesday, when he went to see her, and he was very confident. Actually, he was kind of arrogant. He knew that she had no choice but to say yes. After all, it is her senior who is talking to her. And so he goes ahead and he says, he starts with greetings, and then he tries and says, Miss Mahmoud, let's have a bowl of tomato soup one evening. This was better, he thought. It was more assertive, more take charge, just you and I, okay? He added. And so you can actually read the tone and even the choice of what the author uses. And what did this girl do? She looked up. Her big eyes were shining like light bulbs, perhaps with a fire his words had ignited that he now was now trying to extinguish, or maybe with a flame lit before he came, that she was still trying to kill. She did not say anything. Now you realize that her silence, he didn't know how to respond to that silence, and he went on to add more and to ask her out more on the same, and he went on to emphasize that we can do this on Saturday. Can we do that? And this time she decided to say no. And I think when I look at this girl, there's a description that is on page 120. Maybe I can just read for you what kind of a girl she was, and maybe that this would make any man feel bad if she says no to you. See, we are told. She gave him one of her big smiles. Its details included big teeth, white, and big gums, purple, covering her head with a veil, black. It hid her hair, but left out the face, which was encircled, yet did not conceal. A loose head to foot garment, also black, shut the rest of her from the world. Her face was her only window. And so this description tells us that this girl was really beautiful, and especially the smiles. And he really didn't expect that she would. We are even told that her cheek had a dimple, and her beautiful smiles is one he could not resist, and so on. And so for this beautiful girl who is a junior saying no to a senior person, I think Mr Tahir didn't take it very well. And if you read on to page 120 and 21, you realize that this man was very arrogant. He was very egocentric in the sense that he couldn't take it. He couldn't handle that saying no. And unfortunately, I think even looking at our country and our young people, that is one of the weaknesses that we have been experiencing, where young men are not able to stand when a woman or a girl says no. You go ahead and misbehave. You go ahead and treat her badly because she did not say yes to you. And I think in Mr Tahir, just like they said that literature is a mirror of the society, we get to see that even senior people who have been to school, who are graduates, who are educated, they're also struggling. When a girl says no to you, you don't know how to take it. But now what did he decide to do? He decided to revenge. He actually decided to revenge because of this girl saying no to him. And I would want you to find some time and read page 121, because this is where that we are told that Engineer Tahir misinterpreted a sweet no to a sour no and reacted to it violently. Actually, if you read on, you realize that she didn't have a problem with him, actually. In fact, she was hoping that he can go ahead and insist and not beg really, but persuade her and pursue her. And just like the way I hear that when a girl says no, it is a yes. I don't know how true that is. But for her, she didn't want to say yes immediately, because how would it look? Like she's very cheap, like she's available. So she wanted to post like, you need to look for me, you need to pursue me, you need to ask twice, you need to whatever, you can't ask me once and I say yes. And so this girl did not actually reject him, actually was giving engineer an opportunity to pursue her. But what did he do? Him with his pride, he could not even pursue her. He actually was very hurt. His ego was hurt. He felt very offended. He felt like, no, this girl cannot say no to me. And so he went back to his office. Let me read that part. That what made this assault seem reasonable was that it happened during unwisely, he vowed to retaliate. And so when he felt humiliated by a woman who, for all her big smiles, was nevertheless his junior by many miles. And unwisely, he felt he vowed to retaliate. And so he decided to retaliate. And how does he do it? Still on page 121, what does he do? This morning, actually the next morning, he does not even wait for long. This girl is getting ready to go to the laboratory for work, and she happens to remove the veil from her head, because maybe I'm thinking because she's going to the laboratory, maybe she needed to have her head removed at that moment and change into something. And because at that moment when she was removing the veil, Engineer Tahir was around. And so what did he do? He slapped her. He slapped her real hard, and as a punishment or as a reprimand for removing the veil, because she was not supposed to remove the veil. After all, she's a woman. According to their culture, that is Islam, you're supposed to have the veil, that black veil on top of your head. It's supposed to be there. And especially this week when this is happening, it was happening during the Heritage Week, a period that the leader of Libya had set aside to give his people time to celebrate their renowned history. So it's a critical time. We are talking about our culture. We are talking about what kind of people we are. We are talking about our practices, our dressing, our eating, how we live our lives, our history. And so how dare you remove your veil on a day like now, when it's an important week where we are observing all that we do? And actually, you're not supposed to be doing that. So when this girl is slapped, when Rahmud is slapped by Engineer Tahir, she gets very confused, and actually she gets very angry, because she knows, one, you're not slapping me because of the veil. You're not slapping me as a discipline, because actually he says that apparently when Engineer Tahir slapped Miss Mahmoud to administer discipline on a female subordinate who's for shedding her head veil in public in violation of the Libyan culture. Miss Mahmoud knew that is not the reason. It's the reason because the reason is what happened yesterday, that I said no to him. And so that is why he's hitting me. And so she didn't take it lying down. We are told she struck back. Then we are told, had she stopped to think of the events, the chain of events, her reaction might set off. She would have restrained herself. When you're looking at stylistic devices, this will be something we call foreshadowing. By that just one statement, we actually are informed in advance. It's a premonition. We are told in advance that actually because of that hitting back, it is going to bring a chain of reactions. It's going to bring a chain of events that actually she will wish she never actually initiated. But to move very quickly, we realize we are told that this hitting back, she didn't just slap him back, but in her hands, when she was hitting him back, there was a letter opener in her hand, and it was more voluntary. She didn't deliberately actually intend to use it, but the letter opener that was in her hands, it was sharp. Actually, we are told that it was sharp. Its tip sharp on the day of purchase, but sharper and sharper each day from use. It caught Engineer Tahir's right in his left eye and slit it open. And that was the accident in quotes. And so by the end of the day, after Engineer Tahir hits Mahmoud, he ends up within a few seconds, he has no eye, because the envelope opener in her hands has slit his left eye open. And of course, he goes to the hospital, and that he gets his eye treated. And we are told that turned him into a bitter and a vengeful person, very bitter. He actually was very, very angry with what happened. And the following day, after leaving the hospital, he goes to court and actually sues this girl and says she removed my eye. And to cut the long story short, the judge decides that the law, because their law says it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, your eye because will also be removed. And remember, she was trying to plead innocent. She was citing a self-defense. She was talking about temporary insanity caused by the extreme provocation, but the court did not even respond to that. Actually, there's something they are calling her Mubarak verdict. It's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Of course, she was very unhappy and she tried to complain, but the court was not moved. Actually, it told her that she would count her blessings because the victim had not lost his teeth. That means she would also have lost his tooth and his eye. It's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And she goes to have her the following early morning. She got her eye removed, her left eye removed via surgery at least. And so that now she can repay engineer for his lost eye. And therefore, that, of course, you can see how that discussion goes on and how that relationship gets very messed up. And I want to point us to page 123, where we are looking at engineer right now. Where is he emotionally? What kind of a person is he? Remember, first, he's already lost his job, so to speak, because now the feast of Allah is no longer working, and so he's not having the beautiful job that he really was supposed to be having. So whatever they're having is nothing really major. Then after that, he goes ahead to lose a girl who says no. That hurts his ego. And number 3, this girl actually wounds him, and actually he loses his eye. And that can leave someone messed up. And page 123, I would want to read his situation, so that even as you move on, we get to know what kind of a person we are dealing. Engineer Tahir's dream of a resurgent Libya, now having been punctured, exploded beyond control. Out popped the emotional boil that had been festering inside him since the accident. Now he screamed and shouted. He'd calmed down eventually, of course, but only soon to sink into a deep gloom he refused to shake off. So this man was having serious meltdown sessions, and he would actually go through like depression. He would get depressed, and maybe at this point it's good to read that last part, where on page 124, this is, I thought this is very sad emotionally for someone to go through something like that. And because before maybe I say that, I would say that finally, after even his eye healed, he was able to get his eye replaced. He was able to get actually the exact eye, an eye that looked almost the same. In fact, we are told that he got when he decided to have an artificial replacement for the eye he had lost. Surgeons told him they would plug into the eyeless socket a ball-like implant, not removable. They want him. Then at the outer surface of this implant, he would add an artificial eye itself. This would be a convex shell of glass capping over the implant, snugly like a contact lens. So actually this eye, almost the finished product, matched with the good eye as so well in both size and color that people took it for original of that had been replaced. So he should have liked it then. But now this is where the problem is. Our engineer here did not like it at all. He was actually, one day he likes it, the other day he doesn't like it. Today he's happy, the next day he's not happy. And actually, let me read for you that part. Instead, he hated it. Did it not remind him of the hole it hid? To tell him that he had become a freak of nature permanently? How he loathed himself. He brightened out of his gloom from time to time, of course. But an air of sorrow always lingered on like an unwanted guest who might leave or might not. This was the effect that the accident had on him. So I wanted us to see the kind of an engineer we have right now. Emotionally, he's not doing well. He's been converted into someone who is very sporadic, someone who is not reliable, someone we can't even predict. One day he's okay, the next day he's doing very badly. One time he's cheerful, the next time he's sorrowful. And actually we are told that air of sorrow, it lingered on like an unwanted guest who might leave and not leave. So he can be doing very well right now. The next moment he's down. And so that is the engineer we are talking about. And when he couldn't deal with that, he decided to walk away. We are told that actually his friends talked to him when all this went on, and he realized nobody was trying to help. I mean, even if they are his friends trying to help him out of his depression and they didn't help him, he left Tripoli and moved east to live alone in a place called Benghazi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A place called Benghazi. That is where he moved after now all these tragic issues and his life not working out well. He decided, I think I also need a change of environment geographically. And this is where he met with Mr. Longway. And as we can see on page 124 and 125, Mr. Longway, as usual, you remember the way he gave Comrade Melusi an opportunity to explain himself. What is your story? What happened? We can see that he also does the same to Engineer Tahir. Actually, he gives him time to just tell his story. And also he gives him time to talk about himself and talk about this place. That's when we actually know that he's a Baba. That is B-E-R. I think it's a tribe. And he says, I'm a pure Baba. This is a pure tribe. I'm not mixed up. And talks about that geographical area. You can have a look at that. And so this is where he settled now. And after, of course, Engineer Tahir, Mr. Longway explains to him that about Path Alpha. Of course, Engineer Tahir does not even think twice about it. He just jumps on board because actually that gives him a new lease of life. And he's able to just move on with it. And so we have Engineer Tahir on board now, enlisted. And so basically that is it on with chapter 9. And I want to, now we have been able to bring, I would like to bring us to where we are with all the 4 characters. Remember at the beginning we dealt with Professor Kimani and his family and his wife and his MP Walomu and what happened. And finally, when Mr. Longway is coming to him, he's coming to him when things are very bad for him. He's lost his job, he's been demoted, he's lost his wife, his child, a miserable man. Then we come to Comrade Melusi, and we also see what kind of a person he is. By the time he's meeting Mr. Longway, he's also down there, unhappy politically, family-wise, business-wise, financially. He's unhappy in all ways. And now we also met Pastor Chiamaka, and we saw how he was doing 2 years later after he was jailed for 2 weeks for preaching and incitement against the government. And he's also a very unhappy person. And finally, now we've met with Engineer Tahir, and we can see what kind of a person he is. And you see, coincidentally, these people, Mr. Longway and Agda, are looking for people who are miserable, people who are unhappy, people who have so much they have lost, and they are willing to do something about it. And so when we go into chapter 10, we will be able to see how do these 4 men escalate the agenda of Path Alpha, and how finally do things roll out in the summit. And so thank you very much for watching. Continue to do so. I'll see you in chapter 10, where we talk about the rest of the issues going on there. Thank you very much.